You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hey everybody, we have a different show for you today. It's not the typical show that you're used to over here on Patreon. There's no interview in the sense of that we're talking about a specific topic. Bob isn't even here. Bob is well, I just didn't tell him. No, Bob's getting ready to go to Arizona for 2 weeks. That's why he's not here. But I am here today with Pat McGuire and Matt Borders. Some of you may know those names, and some of you may not. And either one of you should go and find their podcast. It's called History Things Podcast. It's on iTunes and Spotify as of now. It's going to be in many, many other places. You may know Matt from his recent book, Faces of Union Soldiers at Antietam, and Pat, you know, from History Things with Pat on Instagram and Facebook. Gentlemen, welcome to Addressing Gettysburg.
Woo, what's up, man? Thanks for having us.
Matt, it's great to be here.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Pat. Now, I said their names in reverse order from where you heard their voices. So, Pat, just identify yourself.
I am Pat.
Okay. Matt?
And this is Matt Borders.
Okay. All right. So, you guys are doing the History Things with podcast. It sounds like that's related to History Things with Pat.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you, what made you decide to do this? Is it something like you kind of just recently decided because you said, oh my God, that Matt is so awesome over at Addressing Gettysburg. I want to be like him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
dude.
right. Uh-huh. And then so you said no. But go ahead. What is your how did you get into it?
I'll let Matt tell you about the podcast. The way it came about was I've been doing History Things with Pat for about 4 or 5 years now, and the whole approach to that is kind of like your everyman's connection to the war, not just to the war, to the history. Because it started as a Civil War centric podcast, or I guess social media, and I've kind of grown and branched into other areas that I'm super interested in or get proposed to me, things like that. So the whole time that I'm growing this visual brand, things you can see, writing videos I make on site, stuff like that. I listen to podcasts. They're great resources for learning. I work out of the history field. I work in the construction field, and a lot of my day is spent on the road. Sometimes hundreds of miles or hours a day behind the wheel. So podcasts are a really good place for me to kind of keep current with new presentations, historians I like, things like that. And along the way, I had two thoughts. One, this is a really cool market, and if I'm going to be launching something like History Things with Pat, I should one day be in it.
Right.
And two, I'm very competitive, and there's a lot of times where I heard this and I thought I could do that better.
Sure.
And
he's not talking about you, though.
No, of course not.
Dude, dude, I heard this and was like, this is the mountaintop.
Exactly.
It doesn't get better.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Don't you forget that, Pat.
But I'm very laid back, but precise with how I've been kind of executing History Things with Pat. I'm in no rush to do something just because it might be trendy or somebody else is doing it, or I just I don't even care if I start something and somebody else is already doing it. For me, it's just about sticking to my style and things like that. So I spent a lot of time just focusing on building other parts of the brand. And then over the last year, I kind of thought I really wanted to get into it. And I didn't know how I wanted to or whatever. So the first thing I kind of just identified was who I wanted to work with. And then, when I realized who I wanted to work with and some of the credentials that, he came with, as a historian and writer and things like that, I realized I had to kind of elevate my game. Mm-hmm. So instead of just going, I want to do this, let's launch it, come with me, I spent a year just sort of really growing up what I was doing and thinking in more traditional professional terms, because my whole shtick is outside the box.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of the last year professionalizing and establishing good research habits and things like that. And so when I finally pitched my co-host, and it's let me drag you into the social media ether, things like that. It was an easier sell because the brain had grown up. So it's been in my brain for a few years, but seriously over the last year. And when some of my friends branched into it, I don't know if you are familiar with the Battles and Banter podcast. Oh, yeah. So our buddy Avery, So we just had Avery on, and Avery was a huge inspiration for the structure of our show. So I was,
And what is the structure of your show?
So I'm going to let Matt handle this.
Okay. And Matt is also your co-host that you were introducing there.
Yeah.
I interrupted you.
So no, it's all good, right? So like when I wanted to officially launch it, I immediately, like I said, I identified who I wanted to work with, and who I wanted to work with was Matt Borders. He's somebody I've gotten to know pretty well over the last few years. Seasonal green and gray, so you'll get to catch him at Monocacy National Battlefield down in Frederick a lot, and so he was a really good ambassador to that battle at first, and I really got to sort of pick up on his storytelling style and things like that. And anybody that's a fan of a good story knows that not everybody tells the story the way you like to receive it, and so I really picked up on Matt's sort of vibe, and I liked the way he told stories. So I got to know him, and we became friends, and sort of started to develop this natural riffing, like kind of back and forth off each other, banter of sorts. And after a year of like really feeling like, okay, he and I have a good thing communication wise, and like perspectives, and like we kind of like talk things through in a really serious way. I was like, all right, now's the time. And I kind of sprung it on him, and I didn't even ask him. I was like, Matt, we're starting a podcast. And he was like, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legend, Matt Borders.
Legend. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So go ahead. So then, Matt, what is the format of your show? You guys sit and drink beer?
It's happened.
Yeah, it's happened, but that's not generally. You
got to loosen up.
Right, exactly. We're not getting hammered on air. No, the format is pretty straightforward, to be perfectly honest. We wanted to tell a good story, good history with other interested individuals. We wanted a long format program, similar to some other very well-established podcasters out there. We really like the long format idea.
Like the Joe Rogan style, you mean?
More Dan Carlin.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Really like that style, but we were also, as Pat suggested, we were very heavily influenced by Avery and Battles and Banter, because his is more conversational, and so that's what we wanted to do. The History Things podcast is touching on, or will be touching on, a variety of historical topics. We're both military history guys. We're both Civil War nerds. That's my wheelhouse, but we wanted to have it for anybody who's potentially interested in history, so we wanted to move beyond just who's shooting at who and why.
Right, okay. So so you're not covering only the Civil War?
Correct.
Okay. But you're a seasonal employee, a ranger down in Monocacy.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So you're kind of sick of the Civil War, so you want to talk about other things.
Definitely not sick of the Civil War.
No, I can't get sick of that. That's the bread and butter, baby.
Exactly.
That's our big story.
Yeah.
Right.
So how many episodes do you have out so far?
So right now, episodes 0 and 1 are out. So the introduction and the first offering. One of the things that we wanted to do with our show was not put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We wanted to be considerate of the quality of the content, and we didn't want to interfere with the other avenues or other projects we had going on in life, such as, everything from family to like other historical ventures. So
are you married with kids?
I'm in the process of getting married. We have a kid, and so like life, family, it's already rolling for me, and I have a full-time construction career, and Matt is he's a battlefield guide, he is a seasonal ranger, he's an author, and there's other historical things he's doing.
And I'm married as well.
And
you're married as well.
Like,
how old are you?
I'm 38.
20,000 years old.
38?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
You're 33?
Yeah.
You look like you're 28.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not as 28 around the middle as I'd like to be, but
who among us is?
Oh man.
Yeah.
But I just sort of lost my train of thought. He called me fat. Matt called me fat, and I just was like, "Damn, dude, you just crushed me." I'm just kidding.
No, we're talking about family and everything getting in the way of fun.
Right. So what we wanted to do was not put pressure on ourselves to like. Some of our contemporaries are like once a week, once a month. Some of them, like, one of the things I love about Avery is just spontaneous posts come up. Like, that guy is in overdrive with his work ethic, and I love it. So like, he'll just call you up and be like, "Hey, you want to record it on this? Cool." And then like 48 hours later, it's up, and there's like no rhyme or reason to it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how stressful that is to actually produce and put out. Like,
and I wanted a little more structure.
Right. And like, we're like, Matt and I are both real strong structure guys. So we decided we were going to do one like fat episode a quarter, which is like we said, with like the long format. You know, it was when you mentioned Carlin, one of the things we liked is that Dan told a really cool story that flowed and had a lot of imagery. Like, you know, you could, like his Blueprint for Armageddon series, like you can really kind of feel the war coming to life around you without getting stuck in the proverbial mud.
Right.
No pun intended. But like what we really liked was like that experience. But what I personally felt I would have liked more is like what if you had a question and you were able to interact with Dan Carlin like right as he said it, so we could like kind of interpret what he just said, which sometimes he's pretty good about catching on his own. But like, and it's not a knock. It's just one of those like me, the receiver of the content. This is what I prefer. Is like
correct. Yeah.
So that's where like Avery's, sort of brand and style really came in, because he does a similar thing, and like they kind of BS about it along the way, and they break it down, they interpret it, you know, they get super blunt about things, and like I really was like, cool, this is an interactive version of it. And so it was just one of those like, I want to do something similar to that. You know, this is what I think my podcast is. It's casual, it's relatable, and so we decided to do one big episode a quarter, and what we wanted to do was do a follow-up to those big episodes, you know, give you the opportunity to listen, and if you have questions, ask your questions, and kind of like you do with the Get Your DMs In. We want to, you know, we're having the Battlefield guide on, so we want to interact, so we'll do like and the follow-up won't be as long, like an hour maybe kind of thing, where we just kind of get into the questions, or we make clarifications, because that's one of the things that we hope we're representing well on in the community is, you know, there's this weird infallibility in some historians, and like you can't challenge me, and like I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm not either.
How we're playing.
I'm also not a fan of someone trying to like discredit you because you get one word wrong. Right. But the essence of what you're saying is correct. It's just you phrase it in an awkward way.
Dude, in our first episode where we're kind of covering the Peninsula and Maryland campaigns, you hear me get 7 Days and 7 Pines mixed up like 40 times in a row.
And you know what?
And if you're killing me for that, dude, all right, you're bored.
Yeah,
you're just bored.
Well, you know, it's more than bored. You live in a very sad life. Is basically what it is.
It's trolling. Is what it is.
So. Well, I think some of it's trolling, but I think because I'm thinking of someone in particular who we've all probably encountered on social media. I'm not going to say who it is here, but I see what this person writes about himself, and I see what this person writes about other people, and I see a very sad little man, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that do that really are just, you know, not really lighting the world on fire. They're not even lighting a match on fire. Yeah. And so like they want to be
on fire. That's about it.
Yeah, that would be. I would look up to that.
Actually, that's more productive than what they are doing. So I retract my previous fart statement.
But they love to sit there in their homes and read their books, and they think that it's a lot easier to sit there and point out when somebody mixes up 7 Days and 7 Pines over and over again, and then say, what does he know? He's using them interchangeably, or whatever the hell they would say to that. When you try doing this,
keep all this in your brain and spit it out in real time,
and then try to also be interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's not easy.
Have a personality.
Yeah. And these people don't, and that's why they're jealous of the doers.
Yeah. So with that structure, man, you get 8 episodes. You get 4 main episodes. You get 4 follow-ups, and then we felt it was important to sort of keep you updated on what we're doing at all times. So there's 2 sort of state of the podcast kind of
state
things.
Of the podcast, exactly.
So there's going to be a mid-year one where we kind of just go like, hey, we're halfway through this year. We've had some cool guests. Here's what's coming up, just to kind of like re-pump you up, and then we'll usually do one at the end of the year that sort of just reflects. And
now, are you doing are these weekly that you're going to be putting them out, or are they just whenever you get it around to doing
once a quarter them? So they're going to
once a quarter you're doing they're going to come out. So episodes
0 and 1. So the first quarter launch was weird because the holidays, when we really decided to go, was like during the holiday season. And so we were like, okay, so this is just going to kind of happen when it happens at the beginning of the year, but like we can come out of the gate a little awkward, but then you'll adjust. Then we just go right into our structure.
Sure.
So episode 2 with Avery Lentz comes out April 1st. And then, episode 3 will come out July 1st, episode 4 October 1st.
Okay.
And so that gives us, like a month and a half to get our follow-ups in. So they can hear the episode, and we give you like 45 days to submit stuff. And then, we will be releasing, hopefully, the follow-up in like the week or so prior to the new episode coming out.
Okay.
Or like maybe 10 days out from that. So there's
Go to patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg to hear the rest of this episode absolutely free.